as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
And with that, we welcome you to Bourbon Turntable's Thanksgiving episode. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. And tonight, I am with two people for whom I am very thankful. I am with none other than Benjamin the Dog Eves. How are you doing, Ben?
Roof.
I'm
doing great. And as we get into tonight's topic, you'll find out why I put my name as Dog.
Okay.
So if you're a real WKRP aficionado, you may have already picked up on that. So
love it. All right. And Drew Crawley, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Doing good.
Good. Well, today is our Happy Thanksgiving episode. So, of course, we've got to have some wild turkey. And, of course, we've got to talk about WKRP because of the infamous Turkeys Away episode. But before we get into WKRP, and we're going to hit a lot of different things about the show, about the music on the show, about the state of music when the show was on, and its influence on music. But before we do that, we're going to talk about wild turkey. And I think we've all got something from wild turkey. I don't think any of us knows what the other has. So let's start with you, Drew. What do you have?
All right. Well, I've had the privilege of sharing many wild turkey products with the two of you, more so Kevin, but they don't miss. They've got some great products from the specialty lines. Their annual release, their Master's Keep collection is some of my favorite whiskey every year. Hint towards a future show. But I always go back to Old Faithful. So I am drinking 101 tonight.
Awesome.
Just keeping my pace for the evening.
101.
There you go.
Do you have the new bottle or the?
This is the old design. Yeah, it's sitting over on my bar, which is a little far to hop up and grab at the moment. But
that's all right.
Yep, it's the old bottle. So the Old Town Liquors over on Bardstown Road here in Louisville still has 3 or 4 of the old designs. So all you flippers, go pick them up.
All right, Ben, what do you have, sir?
So going down the specialty road with the wild turkey tonight, I was able to this year pick up a bottle of the Single Cask Nation release. Mm-hmm. This is a 9-year-old wild turkey, coming at 57.85%. And where did this one? This was Rickhouse E, 4th floor, distilled October 2011, bottled May 2021. One of 150 bottles. So
very cool.
Taking some of those classic Turkey 101 notes, and it's just really cranking it up, even more so than Rare Breed does a little bit. So,
that's saying a lot because I'm a big Rare Breed fan.
Yeah,
but what I have is Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, the tail feather bottle.
Yes,
the bottle design that should have never been changed.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think, Drew, this is one that you and I and Jared and Mark went out and we met at my house and went to a liquor store, bought a bottle, came back to my house, and then drank. And I think that this is the remnants of that bottle.
I was going to say, I'm surprised there's anything left with that crew.
Well, there was some left, and I've tried to ration it a little bit. So sometime when we're together again, we can drink it a little bit more. And then I've got my, I don't know if you can see it, I've got my Wild Turkey rocks glass too. So,
nice.
Right.
So
is that one you got from your close personal friend, Jimmy?
Well, now that you mention it, there we are. That was, man, I look like I'm just about to pass out. Jimmy, he's 147 years old or something, and I'm looking rough. It was that was at the Westport Whiskey and Wine 10th anniversary celebration.
Yep.
And I think it was in the high 90s that day. But we're powering through and we're drinking a lot of whiskey.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, I think our day started sleeping on a sidewalk and drinking whiskey around 2 or 3 a.m. that day. We had been out all night for some release, if I'm remembering that day correctly.
Oh wow, you may be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good day.
Sounds like y'all should have some really good stories from a day like that.
Yeah. Well, that was the same day that Old Forester opened downtown.
Yes.
And so I went from the Westport celebration to touring Old Forester to night racing at Churchill. So that was a day. I mean, that was a day. June 16th, 2017, I think, 2018, something like that. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Nice.
So, what's everybody's thoughts just on wild turkey in general?
I love it.
Yep. Yep.
You love it. Okay.
I love it. No, it's just
great
it's
talk.
really
Wonderful
good
show.
bourbon.
Thanks.
Yep. See you guys next time. So, personally, I'm a really big fan. People ask for a good budget recommendation for bourbon, and Wild Turkey is one of the first few that I spit out every time, and unabashedly. I really love the some of the specialty lines, like the Rare Breed. I think is fantastic. That was my first introduction to kind of a higher proof or barrel strength whiskey early on, and just love the intensity and the richness from that. That tail feather bottle that you've got, I love that Kentucky Spirit bottling. And that one for me, I've got one right now that I'm sitting maybe I'm about halfway through it. It's I think it's a Rickhouse G, and there's a lot of stories about which Rickhouses are better over others. That one I think has a really good reputation, but that bottle has so much. There's a lot of nuance to it, and it's one of the prettier bourbons I have ever had. And I use that word as pretty. It is. It's all the notes that come through. They're delicate. For a bourbon, you think big, robust. No, these are really almost, I won't say floral, but they come across just really light, really nuanced. And it's just, you sit there and you just feel like you're tasting 100 different things coming across your palate. And for just, that's a single barrel of your simple 101.
Yeah.
All the way to this, single cask nation release, which is really intense. It's almost like candy in a glass. Very sweet, but with just a lot of those spicy, wonderful notes. As far as some of the big heritage guys in Kentucky, that turkey's one of my absolute favorites. The interesting thing I find though with people I talk with is usually it's either people really love it or they almost hate it or they don't at all. I don't find a lot of people that are in between on turkey. Either you really love it or you just don't at all. So
if you don't like it, you're wrong.
Yeah,
that's kind of my
Okay. You're off the friends list,
right?
Yeah.
If you hate wild turkey, I don't. I mean, I could see. Okay, that's not really my favorite. But if you're saying that, then my guess is you've probably not tried the right expression of wild turkey.
Right.
If all you've tried is 101, I could, okay, maybe that's not your thing. But I don't see how somebody could, try a Russell's Reserve single barrel and say, this is kind of gross.
Yep.
Because in all of my time of drinking bourbon, I've yet to find a bad Russell's Reserve single barrel. They do not exist.
That for me is one of the most consistent bottlings around. And I've done some blind, I think we've talked about this before. I've done some blind flights with people, and Russell single barrel consistently beats Pappy 15 in blind flights over and over again.
Easy.
People get really surprised when they find out.
Yep. If you'll find Bigfoot before you find a bad Russell's Reserve single barrel.
Right.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
To me, Rare Breed is the best value in bourbon. It's the higher proof, it's consistent quality, and it doesn't break the bank. So I think that's really hard to beat.
Yeah, you put that up against, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. You put that against the Stag Junior or Stag, whatever they're calling it now, release. Some of those other kind of expressions from other major distilleries that are kind of in that same category. I think Rare Breed wins, not just in price, but also flavor point. I'd take Rare Breed over most of those. Just about any day. For my personal palate, that may not be for everyone, but
yeah,
it's good stuff.
And there's obviously quite a family legacy there now. Jimmy's been there for a year or two. Okay. His son has been there 40 years this year. Okay.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I don't know what the combined number is now, but it's got to be, 105, 106 years between the two of them.
Right.
Over a century.
And then Bruce is there. Joanne is there. So it's a great group of people that are running that side of things.
Absolutely. I'm curious your guys' thoughts. I know we've talked about this before. If you have a bourbon Mount Rushmore, which or both of the Russells got to be on there because they've both been cranking it out for forever.
Well, certainly Jimmy's on there. I think Booker's on there.
Yeah. Elmer.
Yeah, Elmer, and then Rutledge. That'd probably be my 4.
Yeah. Tough list to argue with for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Master's Keep?
I personally love it. Every year, they've got something a little bit different. They've had some that I liked more than others, but kind of like you were saying with the Russells, picks, there's not really been a bad one. I think that Bottled and Bond and then the Cornerstone Rye are up there in my, favorites probably of all time. Second maybe only to the Four Roses Al Young and a few other things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Cornerstone and the Bottled and Bond are unbelievable in my mind. Just freaking fantastic whiskeys.
Yeah, they're home runs. They're definitely home runs. So, any other thoughts on Wild Turkey?
Drink more of it.
Drink it.
Drink more Wild Turkey. Hey, cheers to Jimmy, Eddie, and the entire Wild Turkey family. Keep making great whiskey.
Cheers.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Cheers.
Well, that's kind of the end of side A of the show. We're going to start side B in just a couple minutes. We're going to talk about WKRP in Cincinnati and the influence that it had. But first of all, we want to promote something that we're doing, and that is our year-end award shows. We will be announcing our music awards on December 8th, and also on that show, we'll be telling you our 5 finalists. Each of us will have 5 finalists for Whiskey of the Year. And the Whiskey of the Year will be announced on December 15th. We've got a really neat way of coming up with the Whiskey of the Year for the show. And I think you guys will really enjoy it. So be sure to tune into that. Subscribe, like, share, all that great stuff so that you will know all the great things that are happening here on Bourbon Turntable. And it will be interesting to see what each of the 3 of us come up with for our music finalists, and our whiskey finalists nominees for this year-end award show. And I've sent my finalists out to these guys, waiting to see theirs, and we will have a good time going through that and debating that, and who knows what we'll come up with. So this will be a great time for us. Any thoughts on the year-end stuff, guys?
Can't wait. It's going to be a great show.
It will be.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. Dropping no secrets here. So
Tune
in and find out.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about WKRP in Cincinnati. Now, this show came out in 1978, and I'm decent at math, so I know that neither of you were alive in 1978.
Actually, I was.
Were you?
I was alive. I was born in 76.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that was close.
There you go.
Close. So as a toddler, you were
Yes.
tuning in town to town, up and down the dial. That's awesome.
There you
Great.
go.
But just if you're not familiar with the show, what's wrong with you? The one of the problems with it is it's not on any streaming service right now. It was on Amazon Prime for a while, and then it went off. And you can get on YouTube and you can find most every episode. You can't find them all, but you can find most every episode, and the video quality is not all that great on some of them.
Right.
But you can find it, and you can catch up with what we're talking about here. But the show ran from 1978 to 1982. They had 90 total episodes. Didn't think they're going to make it past year one because they kept switching around the time slots for it, and it never got the respect that it deserved from the executives at CBS, and so I don't think they realized what they had until it went to syndication, and it became more popular than any other CBS show in syndication at the time. So
Yep.
So I guess I'll just throw it out there, guys. Your thoughts on the show in general, and then we can talk some about the music around it.
It was a new show to me just within the last few months since we started talking.
Yep.
About this. So I completely missed it. But I was able to buy a season or two on the Apple streaming service.
Oh, okay.
You can buy it. You can't stream it or rent it or anything like that, but you can buy it. Absolutely hilarious, great characters. It reminded me, and maybe this is just my age or lack thereof showing, but it reminded me of Cheers, but for people that are into music. Some similar little interpersonal relationship. That was just kind of the vibe I got. But hilarious show. Good, fun characters. Definitely going to be finishing that up. I'll watch the rest of the show and let you guys know more thoughts in our text thread.
So did you get through enough to see the Thanksgiving show?
I have not seen that one yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So I know that's the one to get to. I made it through about 5 episodes. So
yeah, I think it's 7 in season 1.
Okay, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Well, might see if I can convince Kate to let us watch that at some point in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the one show that if you talk to anybody and they know WKRP, that seems to be the one show they remember or they know.
Mm-hmm.
The infamous turkey drop going on, but to me, it's a funny show. It's a great show. It's not my favorite though, out of it. And so, yeah, I was when it came out, when it aired, I was a toddler. But by the time it went into syndication, growing up a little bit more formative years, we didn't have cable TV growing up until I was probably well into high school. So it was come home, rabbit ears. You had a few channels to go through.
Right.
So typically when you got home from school, there's shows like MASH and Cheers and things like that were coming on. And WKRP was always one. And it was just one of those shows I watched growing up that it has stuck with me. And it's probably one of my personal favorites, even though it only lasted for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliantly funny. I love the characters that are in it. Johnny Fever being my personal favorite out of all of them. But the one episode that has always stood out, and when it comes to sitcom comedy, I mean, I'm a big Seinfeld fan. I've watched a fairly decent amount of TV over the course of my life. But this may be one of my all-time personal favorite episodes. And so many times there's situations in life where I want to quote some lines from it. For just for shits and giggles and whatnot, but I know people will have no idea what I'm talking about because you just don't run across that many people that are that deep into WKRP. But it was an episode I think that aired in '79, so I guess maybe the second season, and I believe it was called Hoodlum Rock. And it was where the station, they're changing their format to rock and roll, which is kind of the theme of the show. And they've booked, they want to sponsor a concert, and they've booked this British punk band that I guess has this genre called Hoodlum Rock, and they're called Scum of the Earth. And So it's this fun show. They bring the guys over, they try to do an interview in the station. It doesn't go well. Then they try to get them to the concert. It doesn't go well. The fun part is they come in all dressed in suits and ties, sipping tea, very proper Englishmen, and they're thinking, "Oh, these guys aren't scum. They're great, wonderful gentlemen." And then they just turn into the absolute opposite. Love to fight, love to brawl. Just couple of scenes that popped out. That's for me my absolute favorite. I think they're getting in a taxi cab. I think it's their manager is in the cab with them, and one of the guys. So this is where my name comes in. Dog. One of the band members' name is Dog. Dog Blood, and I can't remember what the third guy is. But he looks at him and says, "Oh, by the way, do you have the time?" And the guy goes, "Oh, sorry, I don't have a watch." "Oh, that's it for you then." And proceeds to kick him out of the door of the taxi right as they're going down the road. So it's just like, whoa, what just happened? And then they get later on another scene kind of like that. They're in the hotel. They're having this big fight over whether they're going to do the concert or not. Guy comes in to provide room service in the hotel. And I can't remember if it's Dog or Blood. One of them grabs him and throws him out the window and then turns to Johnny. "Oh, what floor are we on?" He's like, "Oh, ground floor." "Ah, pity." Just little stuff like that. But that one episode, that's my all-time favorite. Maybe one of my all-time favorite sitcom episodes.
The other was Sir Nigel Weatherby.
Yes. Sir Nigel.
Yeah, Sir Nigel. Dog, Blood, and Sir Nigel, yes.
Right.
Scum
of the earth.
Scum of the earth. But the show, while being hilarious, and especially for the era and the time when it came out, it hit some very difficult issues head on.
Did. They sure did.
They confronted things of race. They also had they also did some jokes, racial jokes that they were not mean-spirited. They were funny. Probably couldn't do them today.
Right.
But they acknowledged that the race was an issue, and obviously you had Venus Flytrap as one of the main characters, and so race was something that they met head on. They talked about homosexuality. Talked about suicide. Sexism was a big issue that you had Jennifer and Bailey, and which there's the Ginger or Marianne question from Gilligan's Island, and there's the Rachel or Monica question from Friends, but the real question is Jennifer or Bailey.
We know how Burt Reynolds answered.
Yes, Burt Reynolds did have an answer. But I think Jennifer had the kind of the star power classic bombshell looks, but Bailey had some something going on there too. So but Bailey was, in addition to being very attractive, she was very smart, portrayed as probably being smarter than the men around her that she was working with, and she was very ambitious in her job. Jennifer, while being, again, the blonde bombshell in appearance, she basically kept the whole place running through her job as the receptionist, which was, seemed stereotypical, but then you saw what she actually did, and it showed just how strong of a character she was. Also talked about the Vietnam War, because in the show, Venus Flytrap was a Vietnam War deserter. And again, the show came out in 1978. Vietnam War ending seems like forever ago now, but in 1978, that was just a couple of years, you know, so that was still pretty fresh for people. So there was a lot that the show got into that made it very relevant beyond just being hilarious.
It was, and I think that's part of what made the show so great, even in my mind, because even then as a kid, you recognize some of the media issues that they're tackling. One episode in particular that stands out is dealing with, I think, with Jennifer was a photographer who was trying to get voyeuristic pictures and, just tackling issues like that even then almost seemed a little bit ahead of its time to a degree.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The other characters we've already talked about. We've already seen Mr. Carlson and Herb. And Mr. Carlson is the station manager. He's the big guy, as I call him. Also the Maytag repairman. If you remember those commercials from back in the day.
Yeah.
And then Herb was the prototypical salesman. Wide white belt, matching white shoes.
Right.
And
bit of a sleazeball.
Yeah. And Gordon Jump, who played Arthur Carlson, he passed away a few years ago. And Frank Bonner, who played Herb, actually passed away this year. So
I was going to say Frank Bonner just passed away not that long ago.
Yeah,
been several months ago.
Yeah,
but
now and then of course there is multiple time Buckeye Newshawk Award winner Les Nessman,
right?
Also winner of the coveted Silver Sow Award.
The intrepid newsman.
Okay, one thing about Les's character, if you watch the episodes, he's always got a bandage on some part of his body. And he actually bumped his head when they were filming the pilot, and he had a bandage on his forehead, and so they just kept it as some shtick with the character in the show, and so it's pretty funny.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that one as I watch through the rest of it. It's funny.
It's very good. And Gary Sandy is the actor playing Andy Travis in the cowboy hat there. I actually reached out to him to try to get him to come on the show to talk about the show. And I think he's somewhat of a recluse now. He didn't really respond to my message, but I'll make sure to send him a link to this show. And if he ever wants to come on again and talk about it, we'll do that.
Absolutely,
because that would be a lot of fun. Absolutely. So Drew, so you've been watching some shows, so it's kind of got to be kind of fresh to you. What are your impressions of the show for what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is what you guys said. I haven't really gotten to the meat of it, so there's some more to come. But the willingness to take on, cultural and social issues is intriguing. It is sort of like you said, ahead of its time. But I was just like watching it, kind of, because I watched, Seinfeld and The Office and all those those are my comfort food shows. And I'm like, oh no, I have another one now. You definitely just kind of get into that rhythm with them, get their sense of humor. It's been super enjoyable for me. There's not been a ton of music stuff yet. I think we're still in the character development kind of place with it.
Well, one of the issues, and I don't know if will be this case on Apple, since they're streaming it there, since they're selling it there. But one of the issues that the show ran into were music licensing issues.
Yeah, I read a little bit about that.
And so when shows went to syndication, some of the music they traded out, hearing a song from Boston or the Rolling Stones to some sort of canned background music, and then they overdubbed the lines from the actors to compensate for it. So that's a problem with some of the releases of the show. So hopefully, and I'll be interested to see what your experience is, Drew. Some of them, I think they still have the original music that was on the show.
Okay.
But some of them don't, and that
I'll have to
that kinda
keep an eye out for
sucks.
that. Yeah.
Wasn't there a Blondie song? Was it Heart of
Yes.
Glass or something?
Heart
Where
of
the
Glass.
show is responsible, or they credit with helping that become a hit.
Yeah, they actually sent a gold record to the show, and in some of the episodes you can see it hanging on the wall.
Okay,
but they said that it being featured on an episode helped take off Blondie's career.
nice.
So thank you WKRP for that.
There you go.
Yeah. I will say there are a couple of songs that when I hear the song, I think of a scene from WKRP. And one is the song After the Love Is Gone by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Okay.
There's a scene where Bailey she asked Johnny out on a date, and Johnny was going to go out with her, but Johnny's ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, some ex something came in town and kind of swept him away, and he lost track of time and where he was and forgot about it. But there's a scene where Bailey's just kind of walking through a station after hours, and she's been stood up, and that song is playing, and it's just one of those images that when I hear the song, I think about Bailey walking around the studio.
Yeah.
And there's another one where Les had won the Silver Sow Award and was going to the awards ceremony and needed a date. And so he asked Jennifer out on a date, and Jennifer said yes. Well, at the same time, the station is selling ad time to a toupee company. So there is Les putting on his toupee, and in that scene, playing in the background is the Foreigner song "Hot Blooded." So
Nice.
I every time I hear "Hot Blooded," I think of Les
Exactly.
putting on his wig.
that song is forever etched to that episode for me.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But okay, let's talk a little bit about what was going on in music when this show came out. Around late 70s, early 80s. What's happening then?
I mean, it's that transition sort of that the show portrays. Rock and roll is coming alive. Not that it wasn't present before, but it seemed to kind of take a more center stage, so to speak, place in American pop culture. The British invasion has begun. Beatlemania and all of that has sort of not come and gone, but is, that wasn't the peak time for that. But you got all these rock stations starting to pop up across the Midwest. And I think in some ways that becomes the working class music. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think what we often think of as classic rock really starts to become a lot, I don't know, I don't say more defined, but this time period really, there's a lot that starts to come through in that. Heavy metal is kind of really beginning to come into its own. Punk music is starting to have a big surgence here. New wave is beginning to crash out of Great Britain a good bit. So there's a lot of really cool things that are happening. Of course, there's disco, which I absolutely despise. But
Shocker.
but no, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on musically that's really interesting. I mean, even rap starting to break out at this time period, doing its thing. So for me, I think of this time period, I think of WKRP and like one of the, maybe not even associated with the show, but obviously bands like Foreigner. But man, my mind goes, when I think late 70s, I'm going right to Thin Lizzy. That's like one of the top bands that just boom right there. Of course, you got Van Halen starting to creep out. You've got Black Sabbath. I mean, there's just there's a lot going on.
Yeah, disco. It's kind of an age between disco and new wave and post punk and and you're seeing the rise of some what we would call now classic rock bands.
Right.
But a lot of the music on the show had some classic rock for when the show was on, classic R&B stuff like Otis Redding, Elvis, James Brown, that kind of stuff. But they also had some disco in there, and they had some established rock bands, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Clapton, Bob Dylan. But a whole lot of what was on that show were things like Blondie, like The Police, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Devo, Talking Heads. All that stuff was really coming out at that point. And I think the show did a really good job, not overtly, not in any overt way, but they did a really good job of bridging all of that together and presenting a pretty wide spectrum of music in their show. And again, you're most of the time you're dealing with 10 seconds of a song when Johnny introduces it, and he's in the studio and he plays it, and 10 seconds of a song, and then it goes on, and then that's it. But it was a great underlying theme that we could really enjoy in the show.
Yep, absolutely. Be interesting to see or to hear from a musician at the time the excitement or what it meant to be featured as a song on that show. I'd be just real curious if there are any acts that had that moment of, oh shoot, our song got here and here, or if that had to all be pre-approved or whatever.
Yeah,
be interesting.
I don't know. I know that disc jockeys loved it. They loved the show. And they would send in posters and bumper stickers and all kinds of paraphernalia, and you'll just see it hanging on the walls on the show, on the set of the show, which is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, anything else on WKRP?
It needs to be available for people to watch. Period.
It does. It's a crime that it's not.
Yeah.
That you can't go to Netflix or Amazon or Hulu and pull up and just binge, half a season in an evening. It's a shame. But alas, we cannot do that. So with that, we will start shutting down side B of the show. And we'll start with Drew. Tell us what we've got coming up next.
Yeah, so get your spirits back up, get some more energy after that Thanksgiving turkey hangover and maybe wild turkey hangover. We're talking grunge next week. So we've all been looking forward to this. This is a genre that kind of sits right in the pocket for all three of us, I think, at one point or another. So looking forward to that show. It's going to be great.
It will be a lot of fun. All right, and Ronan Whiskey, there he is. All right. Talk to us about where people can find us on social and where they can find you, Ben.
So if you are interested in following us, we've always got some great information we're kicking out daily, whether it's the anniversary of different album releases, great music trivia, things like that going on. So check us out at Facebook under Bourbon Turntable. You can find us on Instagram under the same at Bourbon Turntable. I'm at Ronan Whiskey on Instagram and Benjamin Eves on Facebook. And got a lot of great whiskey information, a lot of great music information going. You can find Kevin and Drew also on Instagram, and I believe we're featured on Twitter as well. Is that right, Kevin?
We do have a Twitter account. It is not yet really
Not cranking
launched
yet.
and cranking.
All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and also we'll be getting shows on all the podcast services as well very soon. So
Great.
you can check us out that way as well. So,
Good.
all right, guys, that was a lot of fun. Man, getting to talk about wild turkey and then get to talk about WKRP in Cincinnati and the music from the late 70s, early 80s. That's a good night. I love that. That's awesome.
Agreed.
Yep.
All right.
I'm here for it.
So until next time, for Drew and Ben and myself, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And cheers, love, and free bird.